What's that? Good evening. Friday night, just gone 7 o'clock. One of these days we will get it started at 7, but the pre-production meeting, that tends to last a wee bit longer. Good evening, everyone, as always. You're listening to the Friday Night Football Pitch, live on YouTube and across all podcasting platforms with myself, Cammy MacDonald, co-host Dennis Newell, and we're joined tonight by Ian Harrison, Cove Rangers and Aberdeen supporter. There's three words that you wouldn't link very often, but Ian's going to discuss tonight with us, obviously, the start to the season that his Dandy Dons have made, as well as obviously discussing Cove Rangers, how they are getting on, and obviously the league, how they've been finding their feet. We'll also look at the Nations League tonight. Scotland obviously have a couple of games coming up. England thrashed last night by Greece, and that's pretty much it. But as always, Dennis, good evening. How the devil are you?
Good evening, Cammy. Good evening, Ian. How are you?
Yeah, I'm smashing. Why are you in, Ian? Don't be shy.
Yep. Oh, good evening.
Good evening to you.
And you're up in Stonehaven, Ian. So we are a little bit further away than we normally are from each other. Background is Ian and I play golf most Sundays up at St Andrews. So I always hear his rants about Cove and Aberdeen along with Matt Topmansworth. So we thought, ideal, let's get Ian on, because there's a lot of good views and history that Ian's got attached to both the clubs. So we will hear that in due course as we go through the night. But I think, as we spoke about earlier, Cammy, you want to start with the internationals, aren't you?
Yeah, that's probably the place to start. Obviously, not much league football this weekend. I think we've got a few fixtures. We've obviously got a few fixtures in the Challenge Cup this weekend as well. I think we'll obviously touch on managerial changes, a couple during the week. But a good place to start definitely is the Nations League. The last time we discussed this, Dennis, I was sitting in plus 30 degrees. Tonight I'm sitting here with thermals on, big thick socks, and a complete difference from what it was 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's the same everywhere, Cammy. I think this weekend is going to be cold. Might pick up a little bit next week.
Yeah.
But it is certainly getting to winter. You notice it now, even at 5 o'clock at night, the lights are on. So, yeah, I don't know if I was talking to you earlier about the England game last night, and you said it was a thrashing, Cammy. Well, England did get beat 2-1. They struggled. I watched a bit of it, not all of it. And from what I could see, they really had changes in their team that didn't merit it. And the new guy, when I say new guy, it'll soon be the old guy, because Lee Carsley changed that team, and I don't think it worked for him.
No.
I seen the goals, and when I look at it, they were all over the place at the back. Now, I'm not a fan of Maguire, but they just looked totally lost. They had absolutely no leadership. And there was 3 goals disallowed by VAR for Greece, so it could have been really embarrassing for them. Instead of 2-1, it could have been 5. So it's not often we say that about England, but it's good to put the boot in when we get the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to... Sorry,
you
know, you go.
There. I mean, how many times have we said that a great side will play one system and any player can step into that system and the machine just keeps going? A poor machine, change one part out and falls apart.
Yeah.
Well, I take it you're talking about the manager, but the changes he made didn't merit it for me, and the players that I've seen weren't household names in relation to picking them up and thinking, wow, that's good, he's getting a real good shout at this. They didn't. And without going into and dissecting every nut and bolt of their team, they just looked at 6s and 7s. You look at Harry Kane no playing, and definitely missed him. There's no doubt about it. And yet sometimes in games, he's invisible. but they had nobody to finish. And defensively, they were shocking. Honestly, it was like schoolboy errors whenever Greece got near them in the box. But, they're off the top of the league, which is unusual, especially when you see normally the handouts of the fixtures they end up with. They've always been very jammy. And I wouldn't have thought Greece would have had 3 victories out of 3 in that league. Because in that league, they've got Greece, England, Republic of Ireland, and Finland. England are sitting second in that league with the last game lost to Greece. So, it's not great for them. And I do think that the interim boss, his interim period actually finishes on the 17th of November, which I thought very strange when I checked it out, because I thought he was getting a bit more time than this. But after last night, I think a few people have raised that as a point where I think he will actually end up disappearing out of the job. There's no doubt about it. And I don't know who will take over. Is there any ideas who you think might take that?
No, I think, to be honest, that the England job's obviously very, very difficult. I know Graham Potter's been mentioned. Again, you and I have probably got an interest in that, in terms, obviously, who Graham Potter tends to bring in.
Ian has as well. Ian's played golf with his assistant, Billy Reid.
Yeah.
So, we had a day with Billy where we played golf. And as we spoke about 2 or 3 weeks ago, it wasn't something that really was jumping out at Billy. I don't mean the England job, but going back into management. And I did see Graham Potter on some of the matches during the week. I think it was maybe Monday night.
Yeah.
And he spoke very well. And you think he possibly could be back in the ring. I thought it wasn't going to be a job for him. But when you see just who's actually around, I don't know who's going to be taking this. Will they go for an Englishman, or will they go for a foreign manager, Ian?
My opinion on Potter is that as good as a coach that he is getting the respect from star players. I believe when he went to Chelsea, he was starstruck at Chelsea. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the players showed him the respect that they should have, that the position warranted. And you could see it when he was in the dugout. You could see the fear in his face. Now, that's a Chelsea job. What's he going to be like with the England job, where he's going to be under so much scrutiny, having failed in his previous job? I don't know if that's a man they want.
Is that a manager's thing, Ian, or is that a Chelsea thing? Let's be honest, Potter's not the only manager to have failed at Chelsea. And I respect what you say, obviously, in terms of the fear and a massive job and things like that, obviously stepping up from Brighton. But there's not many managers make a success of it at Stamford Bridge. That's possibly the only thing there.
That is very true.
Yeah, I think it was a difficult job going to Chelsea. And I think the problem we may have is, like Chelsea, he won't go in there being liked with 100%. And that right away is a problem, because people will have a question mark over him because of Chelsea. And I think he's going to have that with most clubs, unless he goes to maybe somewhere like Southampton. There was talking maybe having gone to, there's a whole load of clubs that he could have maybe gone to. But if you look at the England team, they expect and require to get to finals. And I don't know if he can get the best out of some of these superstars. And that was the problem he had at Chelsea. Some of these guys just don't want to be told. They're not interested in what somebody's got to offer them. And I know the stories behind some of these, but I'm not going to broadcast it here because it's not an open forum for you to talk about how the Chelsea camp was run. But the bottom line is that some of these players just didn't raise their game in relation to supporting the manager. I know for a fact some of them weren't happy when they were asked to play a particular way. So they just rebelled against it, never pulled their socks up, didn't put it in. Now, that'll happen in the England camp. And I think that is a problem, because he's not got that presence where managers have fear and players have fear from the manager. I'm not saying we go back as far. We've talked about this before, where like McLean and Ferguson and stuff like that. But you need to get a middle ground here, where the respect is that you can, have a bit of fear into them. And I don't think happens with Graham Potter. I don't think it's his style. And I asked Billy, does he go mad in the dressing room in relation to it? No, doesn't do it. So maybe he'll be too quiet.
But does anybody, Dennis? I mean, let's be honest. But would Gareth Southgate strike you as a manager who would send fear into his players and things like that? Obviously football has moved on.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, but that's one of the reasons why he's not there, maybe. Because he's not getting the best out of the players. They've got some of the best players in the world, and they've never performed at the highest level, Cammy. And that's what I think is wrong. Could you imagine Guardiola getting in there and no having that? He listen. You better believe it. I wonder what he's like in the dressing room. I bet he's no a pussycat, and that's what you need. You need somebody that's going to be firm-handed. So I don't know. There's a few names thrown into it. Into the ring with it, but I don't think the guy Carsley is going to see any further than the 70s.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think you've also got to look at the fact of these England star players, who they are actually surrounded by on a daily basis. Some of them are not the biggest stars in the club.
No.
They're surrounded by stardom. You look at John Stones, look what he's playing with. Even I could play with him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think they struggle from that point of view, that they haven't got the same setup that they maybe have at their club system, and that's where some of them are really struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, John Stones was given the captaincy last night, and he spoke after the game, and he felt sorry that it had gone that way, and he was really disappointed for himself and his team in the country, because he was honoured to get the privilege to do that. It was his first time, and he felt a bit down about it, understandably so. I mean, I wouldn't have expected Greece to have overturned England the way they did.
Yeah, I thought in the championships, I thought John Stones was England's best player.
Yeah,
every game I thought he was solid. I thought he'd come on, and Guardiola just turned him into a really classy football player.
Yeah. I think he's good. There's no doubt about it.
And I agree with that one wholeheartedly.
Yeah, but he was surrounded with looked like average players last night. They never gelled. That's what it was. It just didn't gel. They were at 6s and 7s, and if you get a chance to look at, especially the second goal, oh dear me, they were diving in like schoolboys.
Yeah, but I think again that's something that's down to the manager rather than the players. England do have quality players, and I don't think, looking at that, most England squads, if you take likes of Pickford, Stones, Phil Foden, Harry Kane, there's players. I don't think that's guys who are going to chuck it if they have a fallout with the manager, So I don't think necessarily. I think the only thing that might go against Potter in terms of getting the England job would be that reputation that he had at Chelsea. I think Graham Potter as England manager would be every bit as successful as Gareth Southgate, and the only thing that Southgate failed to do was win a tournament. He got them at 2 finals, and I think most England supporters at the start of Southgate's term would have been happy getting to these 2 finals. I think Potter's the man who could possibly take England to that next step and have them winning one of these trophies or one of these tournaments.
Well, no matter who it is, Cammy, they've got a good job. Yeah. Sorry, Ian.
No, I was going to say, if you look at what Graham Potter achieved when he was down on the South Coast, he did really well, and he was a very much admired coach for his techniques and the new techniques that he brought in. And just as you say, Cammy, very unfortunate that what happened at Chelsea.
Yeah. I mean, Chelsea's similar to Manchester United, and both these clubs are a shit show. Let's be honest, they are both badly run football clubs. They are both clubs where players are in charge. There's no manager in charge there. Ten Hag's not in charge. The new guy at Chelsea isn't in charge. That's clubs that are run by players. Dennis, American football's my sport, and currently there's a manager or a coach gets sacked there during the week, and primarily that came for one of the top quarterbacks or the quarterback at the franchise, and that's what we have in football now. Is players are in charge, managers don't have a sniff.
Yeah, there's player powers sort of crept into the game over the last 15, 20 years, and you've always found that they have more to say because the board of directors are trying to stand up to them because they don't want the banana skin of them leaving the club. But just come back to what Ian said, when Graham Potter was at Brighton, he done a magnificent job. He actually showed that smaller clubs can get there, but they've got a good chairman there. And I think that complements the fact of what you're just talking about with the two other clubs that don't have that sort of a leadership that allow Graham Potter and Billy Reid to go and do their job properly. And there you see the amount of players that they brought in from nowhere that actually they sold them on. They made a fortune for that club. And the worst thing that could have happened to them, believe it or not, was to go to Chelsea. But you can't knock back Chelsea because the pounds, shillings and pence, it's just, you'd be mad to do it. But it's been a poison chalice, and I don't know who will get that job. Ian, obviously, it's not your first priority. Who would you go for?
To be honest, I really don't know. And that's being honest.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah, maybe he's hanging about for the Scotland job.
Yeah. That would be something.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the Scottish games that are coming up. We have a game tomorrow night, which is at, where is it? 5 o'clock, is it?
I think it is, yes.
5 o'clock, and it's away in Croatia, Zagreb. So we are really hit with injuries, and I'm just looking here to see who is actually going to be available in relation to. But then again, having said that, maybe people will no bother because we're not able to watch it in normal television. It's on YouTube. That's the only place you're going to get this game. But I'll come back to that in a minute or two. Kevin Nisbet is brought into the squad anyway. James Forrest is pulled out today. Nicky Devlin from Aberdeen and Jack McKenzie on the squad. And Shanklin's out. He missed the training on Tuesday. Andy Robertson was also not available on Tuesday in the training session, but I don't know if he's back there or heard anything. And then you've got,
he said last night he was out.
Aye, well, again, I didn't catch it last night. Scott McTominay, Kenny McLean, and John Suter. Kenny McLean spoke yesterday, and I get the impression he was okay. I think we're going there, and it's just a matter of who turns up. Because to me, it won't do any harm. I don't think so. With the ones maybe missing, because it's going to give others opportunity. Just running through the squad, and you can jump in and let me know who's out and who's possibly going to start. Goalkeepers, and I found that was a strange one. I think we touched on it maybe briefly last week. Craig Gordon back in the squad. How is he not the Euros? I just find that really strange. I know he's in between the sticks at Hearts, but dear me, if he's either good or he's not good enough to be in the international squad. So I think he'll start with him. Angus Gunn, maybe he'll start with him because I don't think he's out. He's out.
Yes.
Gunn's out.
Right, okay. John McCracken, Dundee. No. All right. Nicky Devlin's in for Aberdeen, mentioned that earlier. I watched him playing at the weekend. I thought he was very good. I'd like to see him getting a start. Whether he does or not, I don't know. We've got my big centre half, I think is one of our weak links in the team, Grant Hanley. He's another favourite of starting, which will be a bit of a nightmare. Liam Lindsay for Preston North End. I don't know much about him, haven't seen him. Have any of you guys?
Decent player.
Yeah.
Where
does he play? What position?
He plays in Preston.
Centre half. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that would be good to maybe get him paired up with Hanley. Ryan Porteous, I don't know what you do with him because obviously when he was in the last time he causes a real problem, but he's in the squad, so whether he starts or not. Anthony Ralston does his best, but probably know what we're really looking for to take us forward. Maybe that's why Nicky Devlin might get a start in that position.
Yeah.
Andy Robertson, you've mentioned, John Suter and Greg Taylor. They're the other ones for defence. I think Greg Taylor might be as well, is he not?
Greg Taylor's out, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You've got Hanley, Robertson, Lindsay, Porteous, McKenzie, Devlin, Ralston, and Suter.
Yeah,
That's your eight. That's your 8 defenders.
More or less what was mentioned there. Midfielders: Ryan Christie, Ben Doak, James Forrest, we've mentioned, out. Ryan Gould, Billy Gilmer, Andy Irvin, Kenny McLean, Scott McTominay, who's out, I think, isn't he? And Lewis Morgan.
They're still shown in the squad.
Yes.
Gilmer, Gould, McTominay, McLean, Christie,
that's
Forrest,
not
Morgan,
bad.
Doak,
Yeah,
and Irving.
Yeah, that's no bad. Shea Adams, Lyndon Dykes, and Lawrence Shanklin. Lawrence Shanklin's out, obviously, I've mentioned
Lawrence
that.
Shanklin's out, so Kevin Nisbet's been in.
Nisbet's in, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what your starting lineup is. I would have liked the back four to have changed, with the exception of Robertson. That's unlikely to happen. Plus, as well, it's probably a bit risky. But we'll need to see how that actually transpires. 5 o'clock's a strange time, and as I mentioned earlier, it's on YouTube. What's your thoughts on that?
Freeman's taking over everything. It's only a matter of time, I think, before we lose like the BBC or ITV or even Sky. I think streaming is taking everything over. It's obviously, as I say, it happens in other sports, happens in American football, Dennis, as I keep mentioning. So I don't think it's anything necessarily bad. And the one thing with YouTube is it's free to air, so you're not having to worry about having to get Sky or anything else, and you're going to be able to watch this game for nothing if you want to. In fact, you're going to be able to play in it for nothing, I think, as well.
Well, if you use Via Player, which is hosting this, it's £180 subscription for a year. So I can't see how they're going to broadcast it free. Although
no, just be saying it's on YouTube. YouTube tends to be free.
Yeah, well, how come Via Player have the rights for this, for all the Scotland games?
They have the rights to all the Scotland games until 2028.
That's right. Yeah.
Now they sold up the last series of games. I think they sold them to ITV4 or I can't remember, whatever channel it was. They sold it up, and they expected them to sell them up this time. They didn't offer them to anybody, but put them on YouTube. So
yeah, with ITVX, that's
ITVX. That's what
that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, but they haven't been able to come back, or the FA haven't been able to come back with an answer on how they're going to appease the fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no great. I think you're saying
just
to
touch on the team itself that you spoke about there. I think there's some excellent quality there in the midfield. You're right with the back. At the back, it's maybe not so good, but and up front, I think the two guys try their hearts out. But I believe that they have had a little bit of form in the last month or so. So here's hoping they can convert some of the chances. But midfield's good. I like the look of the midfield.
Midfield's good. I like McGinn in there as well, though, and if obviously he's not available. The midfield, as we spoke about on here a few weeks, is probably the best we've seen for a long number of years. But if you're not finishing, you're not defending, you can have the best midfield in the world. It's pointless. So it'll be interesting to see. It's a game, believe it or not, I would have liked to have gone and seen on Tuesday, because it possibly could be one of Ronaldo's last, certainly will be in Scotland, last games that you would probably see in the flesh. So seeing Ronaldo live would have been good this Tuesday, which is a 7:45 kickoff at Hampden. So what's the two results, Ian? What do you think? Croatia tomorrow, do you think we can get something out of that?
No.
Oh, right, good. And Scotland.
I'm sorry to say, I just can't say. I think Croatia are a decent side.
Yes, they are.
I watched them. I think when we played them during COVID, when we had the European Championships, and we gave a really good account of ourselves, but we were just outclassed, and they just had that little bit of something.
Yeah, Modric playing as well is also an attractive thing to look at.
He's a class,
talented player, absolutely stunning. So
2 games
that obviously would be nice to attend them. Cammy, and the Scotland-Portugal game, Ian, you think we'll get anything out of that? Hampden?
Again, very difficult. Really difficult. But a cold night in Hampden, you never know. You may not fancy it.
True. Cammy, what's your thoughts on the two games?
I'll be honest, I can't see us getting anything for either of them. You know, I think if the Scotland players can't be bothered turning up, you know, I mean, it's one of the things that I'd be interested to see how many fans are going to turn up on a cold, wet, windy night at Hampden on a Tuesday, whether they're watching Ronaldo, Fernandes or whoever. You know, I mean, I just don't see the Scotland fans turning out necessarily for that one either. I think this Nations League tournament is great if you're doing well in it. You know, it was nice the last time round when Scotland obviously qualified and moved up a league, if you like. You know, it's nice to see Scotland getting promoted. But for all intents and purposes, we've gone a step too far. And I'd be very, very surprised if we don't find our way back down into that section 2, if you like, you know.
Yeah. But, you know, what you're talking about there is doom and gloom in relation to if we were chatting in May, we would have a different approach. There was a lot of enthusiasm. We were upbeat. We were thinking we're going to the Euros, and then we're back to square one again.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 14 games now with no win a match. So you look at it, and you've made a point there that I say back to May, if these two games were coming up in May, we probably would have the place packed. Cold night, no cold night. So it just shows you from the space of what, 5 months, 4 months, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We have gone from really, really optimistic about the future of Scottish football to doom and gloom, struggling to put out a team tomorrow night that will compete. And it's a shame. Now, that takes me to the next point. What happens to the manager if we lose these two games? Ian, will he go?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
Will he be sacked?
I doubt that. I think there's still, because he's got them to 2 championships, that'll keep him in a job for a while yet.
Yeah. And
totally agree. If Steve Clarke goes, it's of Steve Clarke's volition. You know, I don't necessarily see the SFA. The SFA doesn't sack managers. You know, very, very rarely, unless you are making a complete and utter mess. You know, the SFA very, very rarely sack managers. And I don't see Steve Clarke's situation being any different, to be honest with you, Dennis. I think come May last obviously of this year, I think Steve Clarke had pretty much taken Scotland as far as he could, which was to another tournament. And beyond that, I think anything else should have been deemed as a success, you know, if he'd managed to achieve anything else. But as you say, 14 games without a victory after having gone so long the other way, you know, in terms of obviously unbeaten or, you know, but I mean, but it's some games that we really shouldn't have lost that we haven't get points in. We should have beat Switzerland in the Euros, you know, let's be fair. And I just think we're flattered to deceive. But no, I don't think Steve Clarke, unless he decides he's had enough himself, and that could be awkward questions for journalists after the game, or that wee bit of grief Ian was saying earlier on about the pressure that the England manager's on. I think the Scotland manager's under similar pressure, but obviously not to quite the same extent for the Scottish media. And I think that'd be the only thing that forced Steve Clarke out the door.
Is that because we accept a second prize? Because that's the way I'm looking at it now. Yeah. I look at it and I've lambasted the defence for the last 3 months or since the Euros. We're playing McKenna and Hanley, and he seems hell-bent and actually continuing to play with him without throwing flesh. If you put fresh players in there, right, at least you're seen to be trying to change it because it's not working. Cammy, 14 games is a massive amount. If he was at club level, he'd have been away about 7 or 8 games ago.
Yeah.
And I just look at it and say, wait a minute, if you can't get us in a winning streak because you're persevering with these players, you're not getting the best out of them. Because looking at Hanley and McKenna over the last few games, they've been horrendous. Now, I'm not saying they're bad players, but they're not good enough for Scotland to take us to the next level.
Oh, that's the problem. They are good enough for Scotland, but that's all they're good enough for, you know. And it's, and you know, and I think you're at a stage there where we have to accept that we are second or third best. You know, at the very, very best, we do not produce quality talent. We do not produce quality players. When's the last quality, decent player to come out of Scotland? I'm not talking about Scott McTominay, who obviously came through the Manchester United youth system. You know, I'm not talking about Andy Roberts. Andy Robertson's probably actually the closest, you know, who came through, obviously, Queen's Park, who came through Dundee United, you know. But beyond that, we do not produce quality players. We do not produce players with skill or ability.
Well, I would say that you've missed out on Billy Gilmore and also McGinn without expanding on anybody else. You've got
Okay,
Tierney as well, and you have Robertson. So there's four. And if we search a wee bit more, I'm sure we could nearly get half a team that are no bad talent. But
I think what Cammie's getting at is that we're speaking about centre halves. And we haven't produced quality centre halves.
No,
or strikers.
No. Aye.
You know, or strikers. You know, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, look at the three strikers. You know, Che Adams. Where's he going to get a game? You know, I mean, it's Southampton. You know, a club struggling to get the wrong end of the league. Lyndon Dykes, QPR, the Championship player. You know, we do not produce quality where it matters. You know, yes, midfield players, great. Andy Robertson's game came from strength to strength since he went to Liverpool. You know, yeah, he looked okay at Queen's Park and at Dundee United to get that move to Stoke. You know, but these are guys who they're not interested in staying in Scotland. They don't play for the Rangers. They don't play for the Celtics of the world. You know, Aberdeen. You're throwing in players there who are not the Willie Millers, who are not the Alex McLeish, the Gordon Strachans. You know, we do not produce players of skill, quality and ability, Dennis. I'm sorry, we just don't.
No, I must agree. When I actually had a look, and there's a game on tonight, which is under 21s, and if we hadn't been on here, I was determined I should have seen if I could record it somewhere. The under 21s to see what's just available. And we're that far afield that we can't be bringing in fresh blood. We only seem to be changing that squad when somebody's injured. We don't seem to be changing it thinking, we've no won in 14 games and I really need to freshen up and changing it. No, he's not doing that. He's bringing in bodies to actually compensate for injuries. He's not bringing it in and telling anybody, we're on, you know, we need to do something different here. He's not stated that. I get the feeling he's quite happy in this merry-go-round with it.
Yeah.
And I'm disappointed because he did come in. He's done a magnificent job at Kilmarnock. He's came in here and I just get the feeling that it can't be handed to you. You've got to go searching for fresh blood, whether it's all over the world or somebody's granny, uncle, whatever it takes to get fresh blood in here, because we need that. Because it's proven that we've got decent players in the middle of the park. We're looking for 3 players, 1 up front and 2 in defence. It's not a massive ask. So that takes me to the next.
We've got the lad Miller at Motherwell, Dennis. You know that Shug Toner's been on here twice. Talking about him getting a chance. Why is he not getting bloodied? You know, why is he not getting a shout? You know, that's players there. You're saying we're strong in the middle of the park. Yeah, well, let's add to that strength by blooding some youth. You know, don't stick with the same stagnant system that we have, you know, or the same players there in the middle of the park. Freshen that up a wee bit while you're, you know, just let's throw some strength at some strength that we have. You know, rather than searching for a striker when we don't have any options, you know. And let's be honest, if Ian could go out there and play amateur football or whatever and get half a dozen goals, he's in me a shout again for Scotland. No. You know, so
he's just had 2 knees replaced, so that's never going to happen.
Well, I've seen
him try to go to the bunkers on a Sunday.
But you know what I'm saying. You know, if we're strong in certain positions, let's strengthen these positions even further. You know, or if you've got a really good midfield, that's the chance to blood somebody. Not when your midfield's crying out for somebody to grab it by the scruff of the neck. You know, so give the young lad Miller a shout. Yeah. You know, put him in a squad at least.
Right, Ian. We'll finish off in Scotland till next week because obviously things will have happened. It would be great if we get a result. Ian, can you see a way forward with Scotland? Are we stuck in this rut now?
We're stuck in a rut until we actually change the thought on how we actually pull a squad together.
Yep.
We stop showing loyalty to players that just can't cut it, and we have to go back to the drawing board, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah. Does that mean then a change of manager?
I don't know if it's a complete change of manager, but I think we need to be of an opinion that this is Scotland, this is how we play football, and this is the system we're going to work, and this is the type of player that we need, and MD can come into that system.
Yeah.
As it is, we're just sort of bit parting players in to fill holes.
Yep.
Yeah,
and we're not consistent.
Yeah, that's a problem. I would like Steve Clarke to continue, but I need to get results from him, right? Because I'll repeat again, the job he done at Kilmarnock was unbelievable. And how he got us to the Euros, absolutely superb. It's dipped. I know we've got injuries, but I'm just hoping we could maybe get something out of this just to give us a fresh lease of life for moving forward. I think the next ties are after that are into November. So before we get to these stages, I'd like to see if we could get something out of it. But tomorrow and Tuesday, time will tell.
See if Steve Clarke stops playing with fear, you know what I mean, and stops worrying about self-preservation, i.e. keeping his job, so as he's no, you know, and goes out, and you're one for shouting, Dennis, and you have been the last number of weeks, you know, about managers being fear to play, you know, managers shutting up shop. Why can't Steve Clarke do that either? You know what I mean? Rather than worry for his job, let's look at trying to entertain and try to win football matches rather than not lose football matches.
Cammy, you can't do that with that Scotland team.
Why?
Because that defence is not capable of stemming the flow. You've got to have people sitting just in a position. You can't do that and go gung ho without saying.
I'm not suggesting he goes gung ho, but I'm suggesting he stops relying on garbage defenders and actually has a go at the opposition rather than trying to sit in tight and defend and maybe snatch on the break, which to be fair he did against in the last two games. You know, I don't think he sat in against Portugal, and I don't think he sat in against Poland either. He just was unfortunate to lose both these games.
Yeah, I think so.
But he did try and go for the jugular there, and he did try to get a result. So fair play to him for that. I'd rather see Scotland lose 3-2 and entertain than lose 1-0 and be absolute garbage and shut up shop at the back.
Well, you know, I'd like
have the intent not to lose.
That's the way I want every team to play.
Yeah, correct.
Anyway,
I didn't realise I was so damn passionate.
Yeah, I know. Right, okay. So that's us solved the problems with Scotland to a point. Where he went ahead now, Cammy, into the Premier League of last week, just in relation to a couple of results that sprung up. And the one I want to bring up was Tottenham. Did anybody have a look at that Tottenham result?
Yeah, watch the game.
Yeah, I watched the highlights.
I mean, it's got to be worth mentioning. How can you be up 2-0, coasting, and lose 3 goals, not just to Brighton, the fact in the manner they actually lost it?
Ask Everton.
Yeah.
They've done it twice.
The style that Spurs play, they're always going to be leaving themselves open for that to happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any other manager, if that had been one of your, say, previous Chelsea managers, your Mourinho's or whatever, at 2-0, he would have shut up shop and that would have been it.
Yeah.
But the big man, he's going for more. He wants to entertain. And when I read some of the Tottenham forums, I would say he's got about 50% are behind him. The other 50% have said he's got this season, then he's gone.
Yeah. Well, we had, was it Andy? That was
Andy Burrows on 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Andy was on.
He's a Spurs fan.
One of my colleagues is a keen Tottenham man, and Andy was sort of looking and thinking that he might be going shortly. And my colleague is sort of saying, yeah, he's no bad in the job, but the bottom line is he's running out of time. So I think, is he taking too much from the way that it was easy in Scotland for Celtic to be attacking everybody with no fear or having to worry about defensive qualities? Could that be something that's maybe punishing him now for taking the approach that he was taking in Scotland. With this approach, I just look, keep running at it. Nobody's going to beat us.
He defends too high, you know. I mean, let's be honest. That's the problem. And if you're not going to at least sit in with a couple of centre backs, you know, or somebody sitting on the edge of your 18-yard box, and if you're always going to defend at the halfway line, you're asking for trouble, particularly against a side like Brighton who can move that ball forward so fast. You know, let's be honest, if there's one side can hit the break quickly, it's definitely Brighton. You know, so that was asking for trouble. And yeah, 3-2 was always a result there. The possibility of happening, you know, because the defence so far up the park. And as Ian says, it's not in Big Angie's makeup to sit in for a result.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's accepting defeat if he changes how he plays. Every team knows how he's going to play. Even Guardiola changes his tactics to suit the teams he's playing against, but he never seems to want to change. But you're quite right. When he was at Celtic, there was nobody who had the ability to do what the likes of Brighton did.
Yeah. Anyway, just touching, we'll not spend too long on that because, believe it or not, time has flown in. Just looking at another team struggling a little bit, Manchester United, very quickly, where are they? You know, I look at the last 6 games and they've only won 1 match out of it. 2 draws, 3 defeats and 1 victory. That's no Manchester United. They're a massive shake-up, seriously. Ian, do you watch them at all? I mean, I always used to think they were the team to watch, Man United. I still think they are, but maybe for the wrong reasons now.
Yes, I think all the players have lost confidence and they're absolutely petrified. You can see them on the ball. They're looking at each other. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. Anyway, just look
at Eric Ten Hag is the perennial dead man walking.
Aye. Yeah. Well, we've spoke about that. It was just Ian's opinion on that. And Ian, you've got Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal and Chelsea. There's your top 4 with Aston Villa close behind. What's your top 2 in that league? How's it going to finish?
I actually think Arsenal are going to do it this year.
Yep, I'm the same.
Yeah, I think Arsenal with Man City on their heels. Liverpool, I think, don't have the big enough squad, and I think they'll get that'll curtail them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Into the Premiership, Scottish, and when you look at that, we've got a team or 2 teams sitting at the top. This is where obviously your strength comes into this, Ian, because it's your neck of the woods we're talking about. Aberdeen sitting there in the second spot with the same points. Obviously, there's goal difference that's created them not being at the top. But Ian, what is the difference now with Aberdeen? You're from that. You've supported them all your life, along with Cove, which we'll touch on as well. But Aberdeen, what's the difference? Because we've not had an insight from an Aberdeen supporter for a while. So
okay, so obviously, new manager came in, new thoughts, new ideas, but it actually goes back a little bit, right, to the McInnes era. Yeah. I know he sometimes gets a bad prep for the fact that he won 1 cup in his whole time there, but he actually changed the mindset of the Aberdeen board and how they went about doing things. Even back in the Ferguson days, they trained down at the beach. They didn't have proper facilities. That continued. He came in and said, I want a proper training facility. I want the pitch that's playable to play proper football on, because it's all on sand and it used to go really, really soft. And it wasn't a play, not for ball players anyway. He changed that and he got them to put their hand in their pocket and come up with a good training facility. The new chairman took another step on top of that after he took over. You've got McCormick Stadium. I've been in to see it. Great training facility there. Loads of kids there. It's really, really good to see in the outskirts of Aberdeen. That can only be a great thing. They've finally found a manager that seems to fit the bill. But what he does have is a thing that we've spoken about before, which is a great spine. He's brought in a fantastic goalkeeper. He's got a good centre half. He's the Scandinavian lad he's got in midfield. He's very solid. He sort of marshals just that middle of the park and distributes. He does all the simple things really well. And then up front, they've got a little bit of pace, but they've got the thing that they've got more than anything is confidence. Some of the players that were there last year with the heads down have now got the heads up, chest out, and they believe that they are a team. The supporters, I would say, they're getting way more supporters in there. The town is actually, people are happily speaking about football now. Rather, and they're looking forward, for example, they're looking forward to playing Celtic next week, albeit they'll probably get a beating, right? That's what everybody thinks. But they're actually looking forward to it. I used to dread it. Because I think this is going to be ridicule Monday morning for the Celtic supporters. But the supporters cannot wait for that game. And if we go down there, if we get a do, and so be it.
Yeah.
But we know we're going to go down there and give it a go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say that is the difference. The spine of the team is good. The players, you see it, like so on the sidelines, everybody is celebrating when good things are happening. Everybody's involved. There's a very much a team spirit, which he's managed to create and maintain. But as we all know, success will generate that. The real test will be when they maybe get a couple of defeats. What happens once they get a couple of defeats?
Yeah.
Do they bounce back? Or I remember McInnes, he went about 10 games, was undefeated at the top of the league. And then all of a sudden, hell broke loose, and they went about 5-6 games in a row, and they never recovered from it.
The boy Robinson, I thought, done quite well for a while, Ian.
Yeah. Robson.
Yeah, Robson.
Robson. Yeah, he did, because he was one of the players. But I think he was probably too close to the players, if you can be such a thing.
Yeah. No, yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
He was too close to them, whereas the chap he is the manager. He keeps it like that, and they know he's in charge.
Yeah. Nesbitt coming back to Scotland, I had reservations a little bit on how good he was before he left Hibs. Have you seen a better player coming back to Aberdeen?
That's what I'm being told. I mean, I've only said it a couple of times, but that is what I'm being told. But he is playing it, as I said earlier, in a team that's playing with confidence.
Yeah.
And players who are playing with their head up will play far better football.
We'll maybe get a look at him in the next few days if he gets a start in the Scotland team.
But what I was told was the game against Hearts is their worst performance of the year.
Yeah.
It's their worst performance, but they managed to get a win. Now, Hearts have always bullied Aberdeen off the park. They knew what was coming, and as he was a little bit naive, there's two things to me he's naive with. One is he needs to play with muscle in the middle of the park when it's needed. And sometimes the class players need to step to the side. The other one is defending corners. He's the only manager I know of that plays a zone defence at corners. He doesn't go man to man.
No, that's
not. And I don't know anybody that's said that is successful. If that was the way to play it, everybody would be playing that. You watch it on the TV, they're basically all wrestling each other at the ground.
Yeah. It's never something I liked with Zono Martin, I must admit. Yeah. I liked to, because you were in the position where you would be allocating the opposite number of who you're going to pick up in the box, and then you're able to identify if an error occurs there, who was responsible.
Yeah.
Then you could have an issue where you just address it and sort it out. Whereas if it's zonal marking, they're all passing the buck. I wasn't meant to be there. So to me, no. Give somebody a task. Number 6, you're against number 9. Something like that. You're better with that. It's miles easier as well, and you can get control of it. Zonal marking, maybe I'm the dinosaur. I don't know, but like you've just said, I have a preference for that. So looking at,
there's that, and there's also the fact I need to give praise to their away supporters. Aberdeen have taken up the full allocation of tickets for just about every ground they get offered up now. And they really are.
Have you seen this as a future that could take us back, or will you never get there again to the 83s of this world?
No, never. You'll never get back to that, because just what we said on earlier is the class of players that they had back in 83 compared with the standard of players in Scottish football now.
Yeah.
And I would say that for all the top teams.
Could you see them overturning Celtic this season?
No. I could see them giving them a run.
And
And the next few games, we've got them in a cup semi-final. I mean, how many times have we lost to Celtic in a cup final or a semi-final? You know, it just happens every year.
But I'll tell you what, it's a tasty tie. There's no doubt about it. At least Rangers maybe picking up a bit. If you look at the last half dozen games, they've only lost one. So, you know, you can't fault them. They're picked up. They're no glamorous and they're no nice to watch. But if you're getting results and then you come up against the big boys, then your test is there again. Rangers are coming in a second wave to the point that we'll see how they got on against Aberdeen and Celtic the next time. Then the jury will definitely be out if they can't overcome that. But
our track record against the old firm's not good.
No, it's not great. No.
In the last 20 years.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, we've no fixtures anyway coming up for this week. There's no point going back through it. I know Celtic scraped through, believe it or not. And when I say scraped through, it was 2-1. You're expecting a bit more from against Ross County. And then good result with Aberdeen. Rangers, good result against St Johnstone. The other ones, maybe a bit disappointing from the Dundee point of view. Well, Kilmarnock beat them 3-2. And again, was that result the point where Dundee again, like Tottenham?
3 late goals.
And you look at the goal times, 86,
I know.
88, and 94 minutes. You've got to look at that and go, wow, how can you lose 3 goals and you're 2-0 up at that point? I mean, that was horrendous. Motherwell beating Hibs 2-1 and Dundee United beating St Mirren. A good result. Next games are going to be the 19th of October, and that's what you're talking about, Ian. Celtic will get Aberdeen, Dundee United, Hibs, Hearts St Mirren, Motherwell Dundee, St Johnstone, Ross County, and then the Sunday Kilmarnock Rangers. And we'll talk obviously a bit more about them. As time goes on, we will just briefly go through the next division, the Championship, which is where Falkirk drew nothing each. You look at that and you go, has that affected them? Because the last 3 games, Falkirk have lost a game, they've won a game, and they've drawn the last one. They're still at the top of the league. Ayr United is a point below them. Do you think they've slipped a wee bit, Cammy, in recent weeks?
Falkirk played very well in that game against Livingston. They were unlucky not to actually get the points. Ayr United was a good game to come back against, and I think Wraith Rovers on the back, obviously the cup defeat. I did say on here I thought that it would have been a big test for them to see if they could bounce back against Wraith Rovers. So, I don't think the bubble's burst yet. Pardon me, sorry. I don't.
No, it's only a draw.
It's only it's still 4 points out of 9.
Right. Yeah, well, they had the game on the Saturday where they beat Ayr United 2-0, so it's not exactly, they've got 4 points out of 6, so you can't knock that.
No. Well, that's as I say, 4 out of 6 or 4 out of 9 if you want to chuck in the Wraith Rovers game. But no, I don't think the bubble's burst. And if they don't win that league, they will have a big say in where it goes. That's for sure.
Yeah, we talked about this the last time the internationals were on. I'm still no convinced of where we go with these fixtures. Now we've got a game tomorrow, which is Partick Thistle playing Falkirk, and I thought, you look at the rest of the fixtures are all away next week. I know you mentioned the Challenge Cup's on, but obviously that's a league tie tomorrow. We'll go into League One because I know we need to catch up with obviously your club, Cammy Clyde, and obviously
still get Cove Rangers to talk about with Ian as
well. So what we'll do is we will skip now to League Two, and anybody that's been trying to listen to League One headlines. So we look at last Saturday, Clyde drew with Spartans 1 each. East Fife beat Bonnyrigg Rose, great result for them 5-0. Edinburgh City got beat 2-1 with Stranraer. Peterhead went down 1-0 to Elgin, and Stirling Albion beat Forfar 2-1. We can get that out the road, and then we'll nip back and see about Cove Rangers. So, Cammy, what's the script with Clyde?
First of all, I'm going to let's get Clyde out the road. Then when we're going to League One, obviously we'll touch on Cove Rangers and obviously the other big news of the week as well concerning Inverness. I think I've been saying it for a number of weeks on here that Clyde's performances were belittling their budget, etc. That they are alleged to have, if not the biggest, certainly the second biggest budget in in League Two, but they have not performed accordingly. You know, they raised their game for the cup tie against Partick Thistle early in the season, and the players raised their game, or the manager raised their game for a cup tie, Challenge Cup tie against the Rangers B team, which is probably Clyde's best two performances of the season, in terms of obviously for the full 90 minutes. Eventually the club has either lost patience, or Ian McCall's realised he's taken the club as far as he could in his short reign. But on Wednesday, I think it was announced that Ian McCall has left the club with the old mutual consent. Not before time. I think a number of Clyde fans, certainly around where I sit anyway, and they are very, very vocal, have been very, very vociferous in their contempt of the job that McCall's been doing. And I think a number of fans had felt that, yeah, he did well last season when he came in, and indeed kept the club against all the odds, kept the club within the Scottish League. But this season has been nothing short of an unmitigated disaster, and the club sits second bottom, 4 games unbeaten, but that's four draws against a 10-man Elgin side that they had 2 shots on target. On Saturday it was much the same against Spartans. Edinburgh City, who earlier in the season they beat 5-0, they managed a 1-1 draw with them at New Douglas Park. And the performance of them all, they went up to Peterhead and managed to get a 2-2 draw somehow, you know. But Clyde have largely disappointed, and it's ultimately led to Ian McCall leaving the club.
Who's going to get the job, Cameron, quickly?
Short term, Mark Kerr and Neil Scally, who were McCall's coaching staff, have been given the job. Certainly they've got the interim task of obviously lifting the club. They've obviously got a week to get things ready for Clyde's next fixture, which is away at Stirling Albion. And then following that, they've got the cup tie against Elgin.
Yeah.
Are we looking at Hearts' situation where they're getting 2 or 3 games to see if they can turn things around, or indeed is this just a short-term appointment? I think only time will tell on that one, Dennis. Yeah. But largely McCall had to leave.
Yeah. Oh, we'll see what happens in the future. Ian.
Yeah.
Cove Rangers.
Yeah. There's your history. Just before I touch on that, just to say that Elgin City, I think, have done really well. They were whipping boys last year, and they've seemed to have the ability now not to lose goals. They're not very exciting to watch, but they are very, very difficult to actually beat and get a goal past. So they've done well. And you've got Peterhead. They've got a young team as managers, 2 ex-Cove Rangers players, actually, that are running there. They had been doing really well, had the odd bad result, but they've got Rory McAllister, who I believe is 30 goals short of Ali McCoy's Scottish League record.
Yeah, what player?
And he's 37 now, so he's maybe got 2 seasons to catch him. But
I'm surprised he never really got. You look at it, Premier League status, he's got to have been with the amount of goals he scored, but I don't know whether it was job commitment or whatever else. But
to be honest, I think, reading between the lines, and I know one of his relatives was, it came down to finance. He was making more money as a part-time player and a full-time worker.
Yeah. And
going full-time with a championship team or something, he would have had to go and move down south. Well, I say south, down to the Central Belt. He didn't want to do that.
Yeah. He's been a good servant wherever he's been, and he scores.
Yeah, he's been a good provider of goals. Excellent.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, you never know what would have happened when you look at somebody like that. If he had taken the gamble, maybe going somewhere and ended up, I don't know, Scotland team. What would it be like to maybe get somebody like that that scores goals for fun? But anyway. So, Elgin City have done exceptionally well, as you say there, Ian. But you've got to look at your old team, Cove Rangers. I think your grandfather played with them, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try and make this as brief as possible. Yeah, 1922, the club was formed with 2 relatives as My grandfather's uncles both played. Grandfather played. My father played. And I'm the disaster that never played. So
So you brought the cycle.
that was me, yeah. Well, and then the rest of the family have all been females. So,
All right.
That doesn't stop them playing football, Ian.
It doesn't. My daughter played. My daughter played at a better level than I did. So, but anyway, yeah, that was Cove, and then they, as I say, formed in 2248. They got their own pitch. Local farmer donated that to them. And then they played in the amateur leagues. I used to go with my grandfather, and my granny washed the strips, all the usual stuff at an amateur club did. And then there was a chap by the name of Alan McRae, who was a great friend of Alec Ferguson. He got involved with Cove in the early 80s, and he had his vision to take them higher. I think it was 85, they moved into the Highland. Became a junior club. 1 year later, they were in the Highland League, and then they kicked on from there. Alan McRae ended up secretary of the SFA. The club itself did really well in the Highland League, and then as a guy by the name of Keith Moorhouse came in, a local businessman, he took over. He became a director 2010, I think it was, and then he then started putting money into the club, and then they had this vision to. He wanted them to be full time. He wanted them to get into the Scottish League, and right enough, they beat Berwick Rangers in a playoff to get into the Scottish League. Paul Hartley actually ended up manager by default. That his father-in-law was the manager. John Sheeran was manager of Cove Rangers, and he'd actually been helping them training towards the end of the season. John had a heart attack, I think, after they won the league. Paul took over, and then he continued that run until he got taken away by Hartlepool. He has since returned. A couple of years where they did really well. Championship was not a good year. That was their centenary year, and ended up with a manager and Jim McIntyre, who I don't know that well, I didn't know much about him, but he lost the dressing room, I believe, very early on. So 2022 was just a wasted year as far as I'm concerned. They got relegated. And then the first Division 1 wasn't that great. Seemed to have recovered, but they're now going full time, and form actually dipped going full time compared with being part time. We've got 3 Highland League players still left. The rest has all been young lads that we've taken in, and they're going through a period of rebuilding. But what they do have, they have a great corporate setup. They have got some fantastic sponsors, and the question we always ask in the stands is, where's all the money coming from? Because it seems to be, because the crowds haven't been great. There were 1,300 tail end of Highland League into the second division. Great season, with 1,300 we were getting, and now they're down at 300 or 400. But that's probably because of the form. COVID probably is going to do with that as well. But there's a great team spirit. The young lads have come in. A case of just getting them to jail. Started to get a couple of results, but they keep sort of throwing themselves back. But it shows you that what you can do and where you can come from in a very short space of time.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the league position, Ian, they're only 4 points off top, because that league itself, you go down to 8th spot. It's 5. There's only 5 points between the first team and the 8th team. So you set yourself 2-match swing, and you're up there challenging. So although it's not been the best, it's a wee bit inconsistent up and down. They're still in with a shout. They just got a few results strung together.
Exactly.
And is Paul Hartley not married to the chairman's daughter?
He certainly is.
That's what it says.
Sorry, not the chairman. He's John Sheeran is the football director or something along that line.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And does that make Does that make that a good relationship where it's maybe quite close knit, so you get the best out of everybody from that point, or does it maybe work the opposite way?
I think he's kind of in the halfway house, to be honest with the fans.
Okay.
I think so a lot of people would like to see him out, to be honest.
All right. Okay. Yeah. And the chairman, he actually puts quite a bit of money into the club, I believe.
That man, I think I looked at. I mean, I never realised how easy it was, but you go into company's house and you can see the records of all the clubs, whoever you want to go and look at. He consistently puts in high six-figure sums into the club. Amazing. Which is obviously he bucks the trend with some of the big boys who are too busy taking money out of clubs.
Yeah, that's excellent. Not many people doing that nowadays.
No, I mean he does. He shows every game I was at, he's always there. Away games, we're sitting in stands, pouring rain. He's there, and I'm sure with his money he could be doing a lot better, more enjoyable things. But the club is a great love of his. But as I say, he's worked on the things he's good at, which is the corporate side. As I say, the corporate, the tables, pre-match entertainment, that's full every week. You just cannot get a table. So they do a great job of that, and the sponsorship again, he does really well.
Yeah, well, it had a good result against Alloa, last week when they beat them 2-0. And then you've got the next fixture that's coming up will be the 19th, and they have got Queen of the South. Yeah, Cammy, we're going to talk about Inverness, Cali.
Yeah, obviously, Inverness, we discussed it a couple of weeks ago. I think we maybe made mention to it last week too. It does look very, very likely that Inverness Cali will be going into administration. So, other than the fact that obviously the club's going into administration, Dennis, that probably puts your tips for that division right in the kibosh, because I can't see them making up the 10-point disadvantage and still going on to win the league the way things are just now. So, bad news obviously for if you're an Inverness supporter that it does look as though Cali will be going into administration.
Yeah, I was going to change it anyway, Cammy, because they weren't doing that well.
No, I know, that's exactly.
How much money did they have to find? Was it about 260,000?
Yeah, I think so.
Initially.
Like that. I think they got a GoFundMe page that done 70, I think. But I think it was almost $250,000 or around $250,000, Ian, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then they had to find something like 1.2 before the end of the season or something.
Crazy.
Yeah, I think so. It is absolutely crazy, you know, that the club's just been in, it's pretty much in turmoil for the last number of years, you know, and just a downward spiral. And it just shows you what happens if you come out of that Premier League, how drastic things can turn against you.
Yeah, it's sad because I thought they were well enough supported, especially with the oil side of things up there, that you would expect somebody to maybe, like you're talking about Cove, the chairman, maybe somebody along the lines would have been sympathetic to their needs and at least bridged the gap.
I mean, Inverness is a thriving town.
Yes, yeah.
It really is. It does very, very well. I'm really surprised. Yeah. But of course, you've still always got the thing that the two clubs, for people who don't know, there was Inverness Thistle and Inverness Caledonia, who were two separate, they're two rivals in the Highland League who sort of formed together. And there was many, many people said, no, I'm not going to watch that. And they didn't. So they lost a lot of supporters through that.
Yeah, but you're going back a long, long while. I remember
exactly
who came together, and I think I wouldn't say they all buried the hatchet, but I think the Inverness has been well enough supported, and they have served their purpose really well as Inverness Cali Thistle. So it is disappointing, and I just hope they don't go to the wall, to be honest, because it will be sad. You need a team there. But anyway, finishing up, we have.
He's not taking a wage.
No, well that's decent.
Sorry, what was that?
Duncan Ferguson. He's declined to take any wages until they get out of this mess.
Well, that's only right, because the job he's done as manager, he doesn't merit a wage anyway. Unfortunately, you know, I mean, they really have been nothing short of disaster since he took over. You know, I think you're looking at a guy there who's been a manager for over a year, or almost 2 years between Forest Green Rovers and Inverness Cali, and I think you could count on your one hand the amount of wins he's managed to get at both teams.
Well, he's played 9 games this year and only got 1 victory. Quite a few
Yeah,
draws, right?
and then when you take that last year, and as I say, I don't think he managed to get a win at all at Forest Green. You know, so as I say, he did great when he stood in at Everton. You know, but unfortunately,
I'll tell you what, you wouldn't mess about with him in the dressing room.
No, that's true. You know, but unfortunately, just doesn't seem to be cutting it as a manager, as I say, other than when he was, I say, at the caretaker gaffer, the interim manager at Goodison Park.
Mm-hmm. Well, tomorrow we've got the Scottish Challenge Cup 4th round, and they actually are away to Livingston Inverness, so that'll be an interesting tie, 2 o'clock kickoff. The other ties that are going to be played tomorrow is Dunfermline. I've got Kelty Hearts, where 1 o'clock, say it right, 1 o'clock.
Local derby.
Yeah. Airdrie have East Kilbride, the 1:30 kickoff. Ayr United, 2 o'clock kickoff against Peterhead, and as I've mentioned, Livingston against Inverness Cali at 2 o'clock. Obviously, they've been played early because the Scottish match is on at 5. And I suppose that rounds us up from covering a fair bit there. We crammed in. I know there was plenty more you could have spoke about Cove, Ian, because I've heard quite a bit more, and we'll definitely try and get you back on again to expand on it when they climb up the top of that table.
Here's hoping they do, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that sort of draws it a close, doesn't it, Cammy? Because you are always complaining we run over, so we're 12 minutes over.
I'm beginning to wonder how we managed to talk for 71 minutes when there's not a great deal to talk about. So,
Cammy,
fair play.
I can rattle my gums for 4 hours on the golf course with Ian on a Sunday. This is a stroll in the park.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Ian, does it give you a chance to talk?
I do a lot of listening.
I was going to say that, yeah.
I do a lot of listening.
He's a good listener. Don't get much golf played, but he's a good listener.
And who buys the rounds at the end?
Well, we just head off.
We'll head off. It's breakfast we have.
All right, fair enough.
We're up there early. We have breakfast before we go out, and by the time we finish, we just go home. So, good Sundays. Look forward to it every week.
Yeah,
good laugh.
I'm just trying to find out who would loosen the purse strings the most out of you and an Aberdonian, you know. So that was all.
Oh no, Ian doesn't have a problem like that. No.
No bother. Well, listen, guys, thank you very much as always. As I say, we've managed to chat for well over an hour on International Week. Yet again, we keep thinking, Dennis, the International Week will be a short show, but no, it never turns out to be that way. So thanks very much, Ian. I hope you enjoyed yourself tonight.
I did indeed, yes, thank you.
Yeah, good. We'll get you back on at some point in time, as Dennis says, perhaps when Cove Rangers climb that table or when Aberdeen get that elusive victory over either half of the Old Firm.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You'll definitely do that. So next week, Dennis, will probably be looking back at the Nation League's fixtures, and obviously ahead to some league bread and butter stuff. We might even know who the Clyde manager is next week as well. So there'll be a lot to talk about.
Can't wait in that one. Yeah, I'll need to stay up at night to see if they release it in the middle of the night.
Hey, don't talk about the middle of the night. I've got a game on tomorrow night. They don't even go there, you know. So that'll be a late one for me. But that's going to be the game of the season so far. So there we are. Anyway, enough about that. It's a football show, not an American football show, despite the flag at my back. Guys, thanks very much as always for joining us. And as I say, tune in more next week. Like, subscribe, comment, and share with your pals. Good night.
Cheers, Ian.
Okay, thank you.